I shouldn't have slept with him. I knew that even as his fingers traced my spine like he was memorizing a secret. His breath was in my ear, his voice a whisper of something that sounded like forever, but it was a lie. We only had one night together, but I became obsessed with him like he had infected my bloodstream. I checked my phone every minute. I replayed his laugh in my head. I told myself I wasn't that girl, the clingy, needy, desperate kind. But the truth? I was worse. I found his LinkedIn. His sister's Instagram. I knew the name of the dog he had as a kid. And when he didn't text back, I didn't move on. I moved closer. The last straw? I showed up at the bar where he said he worked, wearing the same dress I had on that night, praying he'd remember. But when he saw me, he didn't smile. He looked through me like I was a stranger. Then he whispered something to the bartender, turned his back, and walked away like I was just a dream he had already forgotten. That's when I realized I wasn't chasing a man. I was chasing a ghost. And I was about to ruin my whole life trying to bring him back. Before I tell you what I did next, make sure you're alone. Because obsession like this? It's contagious. It started with a dare. Not a dramatic, movie-style dare, but a stupid little moment of weakness, my friends laughing, a tequila shot burning in my throat, and that hollow ache of being single for too long pressing against my ribs like a bruise. Go talk to him, Sarah had whispered, her arm looped through mine. What's the worst that could happen? I remember the way the lights above the bar shimmered on his skin, like God himself had decided to spotlight my worst decision. He was leaning against the counter, casually ignoring the chaos around him, sipping whiskey with a look that said he'd seen too much or felt too little. I should have walked away. I didn't. He noticed me before I could think. Smiled in that slow, confident way that makes your stomach twist and your brain go quiet. You look like you hate parties, he said, and I laughed because it was true. Then why are you here? I asked. Looking for something that doesn't exist, he said. He didn't say it like a flirt. He said it like a confession. And I should have known from that second, I was already falling for a fantasy. We talked until the lights dimmed, until the crowd thinned, until the air between us was so electric I forgot my name. I never asked where he lived. He never asked for my number. We weren't two people planning a future, we were shadows slipping through one another for a single night. When he kissed me, it felt like a promise. When he left my apartment in the morning, it felt like a curse. I told myself it was nothing. Just a moment. A story to laugh about later. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. His name was Eli. I knew that much. He told me he worked in music, sound engineer, studio sessions, something vague and sexy. He had this way of talking like everything he said mattered, like even silence was intentional. And that night, he made me feel like I mattered too. Like I was more than just a placeholder in someone else's life. It wasn't about the sex, it was about the way he listened. The way he looked at me like I was a song he'd been trying to find for years. I waited 2 days for a text. Nothing. I tried to be cool. I posted a photo from the night, just in case he followed me. Left my location tag on. Still nothing. That's when the spiral began. I started digging. I remembered the name of his band. Googled it. Found a YouTube channel, some behind-the-scenes video where he was adjusting mics and laughing with some long-haired vocalist. I watched it 6 times. I screenshotted his smile. Then I found his Instagram. Private. Of course. But his profile pic was the same face I couldn't get out of my head, eyes like storm clouds, smile like a secret. I told myself not to DM him. That would be crazy. Desperate. So I waited another 3 days. Then I messaged, "Hey, not sure if you remember me from last week, but I had a really great time. No pressure, just wanted to say that." Left on read. No reply. The worst part? I made excuses for him. Maybe he was busy. Maybe he was scared of how fast things felt. Maybe I wasn't enough. Or maybe I was too much. My friends told me to let it go. It was just one night, Sarah said. He doesn't owe you anything. And she was right. He didn't. But I still felt like I was owed something, closure, explanation, anything that would make me feel like I wasn't insane for feeling this much over a man I barely knew. So I went back to the bar. The same night of the week. Same crowd. Same dress. He was there. My heart nearly stopped. He was standing by the jukebox, talking to some guy, laughing like nothing had ever happened between us. I walked up, slow and uncertain, and when our eyes met, something inside me broke. Because he didn't light up. He didn't smile. He didn't say my name. He just blinked. Like I was a stranger. "Hey," I said, trying to play it off. "Eli, right?" He tilted his head. "Do I know you?" I laughed nervously. "From last Friday? We hung out after the show, went back to mine?" A pause. A slow, careful smile. "Right. Sorry. You have one of those faces. One of those faces." I wanted to disappear. Crawl into the floor. Vomit. I turned around and left before I could cry. But inside, something snapped. Because that wasn't just rejection. That was erasure. And I wasn't ready to be forgotten. I didn't cry that night. I wish I had. I wish I had gone home, washed my face, deleted his name from my head and let myself fall apart like a normal person. But instead, I did what I always do, I rewrote the story. I told myself he was lying. That he remembered me but was trying to save face. That maybe his friend was watching, or maybe he had a girlfriend now, or maybe he was scared of how real it had felt between us. I twisted his blank stare into a form of self-protection, not rejection. It sounds pathetic now. But when you're desperate, your brain will build cathedrals out of ashes. I started following his band's schedule. They played small venues, grungy bars, open mics, underground showcases. I wasn't stalking him, not really. I was just staying close. Hoping that proximity would eventually become connection. Hoping he'd see me again, really see me, and remember the way he held my face that night like it was something fragile and holy. The third time I showed up to one of his gigs, he finally approached me. I thought it was fate. That the universe was rewarding my patience. But now I know better. It was control. He leaned against the wall beside me after the show, sweat still clinging to his shirt, that same intoxicating smirk on his lips. "You're really into the music, huh?" he asked. I smiled. Too wide. Too eager. "You were amazing tonight," I whispered. He looked me over slowly, like a collector deciding whether an old piece was still worth keeping. "I still don't remember your name," he said, and laughed like it was charming. I should have walked away. But instead, I gave it to him again. Like a gift. "Maya." He repeated it once, then never again. That night, we didn't go home together. We didn't kiss. He said he had to leave early. But he gave me a piece of hope, just enough to keep the fire alive. "Maybe I'll see you at the next one," he said. Like I was the one chasing him. Like it was my job to earn another chance. And I took it. I wore new outfits. I practiced smiles. I memorized the lyrics of their songs so I could mouth along from the crowd. I laughed too loudly at his jokes when we talked after shows. I became the girl who waited. Who watched. Who hoped. Then one night, I saw her. She was on his Instagram. Tagged. A blurry photo of her on his lap, her arms draped around his neck. Her name was Cass. I clicked, and there it was, dozens of photos, old and new, of the two of them together. Concerts. Holidays. Kisses. Captions like my home. 6 years strong. 6 years. He'd had a girlfriend the whole time. Probably even the night he was in my bed. I stared at her smile like it had betrayed me personally. Like she had stolen something that never belonged to me. And then I did something unhinged. I messaged her. I didn't tell her everything. I just said, "Hey, don't know if this matters, but I think your boyfriend hooked up with me a few weeks ago. Thought you should know." She didn't reply. But a few hours later, Eli did. He called me. Not texted. Called. I stared at my phone like it was haunted. My hands trembled when I picked up. "Maya?" His voice was flat. Cold. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "You don't message her. Ever. You hear me?" I thought she deserved to know. "You thought wrong," he snapped. "You don't know anything about us. You were a mistake. A moment. Don't ruin people's lives because you can't handle rejection." I went quiet. My throat burned. My vision blurred. And then he said the one thing I'll never forget. "You were just a night, Maya. That's all. Get over it." He hung up. I sat there, staring at the wall, feeling like my skin didn't fit anymore. Like I'd been scooped out and replaced with shame. But underneath all that, under the tears and the shaking, was something darker. Rage. Not because he lied. But because he made me believe I had imagined it all. That I was crazy for feeling the way I did. That I was nothing more than a glitch in his life story. So I made a choice. If he wasn't going to remember me the way I wanted, then I would make sure he never forgot me again. I always thought I was the good one. The one who forgave too easily, who cried instead of screamed, who walked away instead of burning the house down. But heartbreak doesn't just hurt, it mutates you. It turns your softness into something sharp. And that night, after Eli called me a mistake, after he rewrote our story like it had never happened, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize myself. I saw someone hollow, furious, and desperate to be remembered. The plan wasn't even a plan at first. It started as a fantasy. What if Cass found out the whole truth? What if she left him? What if he called me again, broken, begging, realizing too late that I was the one who actually saw him? I thought about it for days. Played it like a film in my mind, me, calm and collected, telling her everything. Him, shattered and sorry. Me, walking away with my dignity stitched back together. But that version of me was long gone. Instead, I made a burner account. I used a fake name, found more photos of us from that night, ones I never should have taken. A blurry mirror selfie, our clothes on my floor, a wine glass still half full. I sent them to her with no caption. Just silence. The kind that screams. She blocked the account. But a few days later, something shifted. He posted a story, black background, white text, taking time off. Don't ask. The band's page went quiet. No new shows. No updates. Radio silence. And that silence? It fed me. It was the only thing that made me feel alive. But the victory was short-lived. A week later, he showed up at my door. I didn't even know how he found my address. Maybe he remembered more than he let on. Maybe Cass had gone through his phone and put the pieces together. But when I opened the door and saw him standing there, hair a mess, eyes bloodshot, that stupid leather jacket still smelling like bar smoke, I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt scared. Not because he was dangerous, but because I realized I still wanted him. You really did it, he said. You blew up my life. I crossed my arms, trying to hold myself together. You blew up mine first. He shook his head. We had one night. One. You turned it into a psychotic campaign. My voice cracked. Because it meant something to me. Because you made it feel like it mattered. His face twisted. You created that. In your head. I never promised you anything. No, I whispered. You just made me feel like I wasn't invisible. He stepped closer. You weren't. Not that night. But after? You scared me. That hit harder than I expected. Scared him? I wanted him to miss me, not fear me. I didn't want to be the monster in his story, I wanted to be the regret. But monsters don't get to choose how they're remembered. He didn't yell. He didn't threaten. He just looked at me like I was someone broken beyond repair. I'm asking you one last time, he said quietly. Leave us alone. And just like that, he was gone. I stood in the doorway for a long time after that, wind creeping through the cracks, my heart trying to make sense of itself. I thought I'd feel triumphant. I thought I'd won. But all I felt was empty. The next morning, I deleted everything. The photos. The messages. The burner account. I even unfollowed his band. Not because I forgave him, but because I realized I couldn't keep feeding this obsession without losing what little of myself I still had. For weeks, I tried to move on. I went to therapy. I stopped drinking. I changed my number. I even tried dating again. But nothing stuck. Because part of me was still living in that one night, still waiting for him to turn around and say, I remember. And that's the worst part about being the villain. You don't get closure. You just haunt the story forever. I thought time would fix it. That if I stayed away, if I starved the obsession long enough, it would shrink. Die. Become something I could laugh about with friends over wine. But it didn't. The ache changed shape, sure. It wasn't fire anymore. It was quieter. More patient. Like a cold shadow that followed me into every room, curling around my ribs whenever a song reminded me of him, or I saw someone in a bar with his exact profile and my stomach dropped before I realized it wasn't him. My life moved forward, but I didn't. I stayed in that one night, on that mattress with the sheets kicked off, with his voice in my ear and my future pretending it had just begun. Cass never messaged me. She stayed. I knew that from social media. I checked her page sometimes, in private tabs, late at night, when loneliness scratched at my throat. They went to Greece. She dyed her hair. He got a tattoo on his arm, a snake curled around a rose. She posted it with the caption, "He's learning how to grow." That should have gutted me. It didn't. What gutted me was realizing she still had what I only got to borrow. That she got the apology I was never offered. That he found a way to become better, just not for me. I stopped looking after that. Not because I didn't care anymore, but because caring had become a kind of self-harm. And I was tired of hurting myself in his name. I tried to write about him. I opened blank documents and stared at the cursor, trying to bleed the truth into something that made sense. I started journaling, therapy style, listing the lies I told myself. He cared. He was just scared. If I had played it cooler, he would have stayed. If I were prettier, quieter, easier, he would have loved me. None of them were true. But I needed to name them before they buried me. One night, months later, I was walking home from work, headphones in, the city humming around me, when I passed a record store. In the window was a flyer for a local music showcase. His band's name was printed near the bottom in tiny font. My breath caught. My chest went hollow. And before I could stop myself, I walked inside and bought a ticket. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I wore plain clothes. No makeup. Hair tied back. I wasn't there to be seen, I just needed proof that he was real. That I hadn't made him up in a dream. The venue was small. Standing room only. I lingered near the back, eyes scanning the stage. When he walked out with his guitar, I felt my whole body still. Not because I missed him, but because I didn't. Not in the same way. He looked older. Tired. There were shadows under his eyes. He smiled, but it didn't reach. He was just a person. A man I slept with once. A man who became my ghost. And now? He looked more like a memory than a monster. They played their set. I didn't cry. I didn't flinch. I just watched. And when it ended, I left. No goodbye. No second glance. Just the sound of my own heels on the pavement and the city swallowing me whole again. That night, I did cry, but not because of him. I cried for the girl I used to be. The one who thought love had to hurt to be real. The one who mistook obsession for destiny. The one who twisted herself into a shape she thought he'd want, just to be left holding the pieces. I think we all have one person like that. The one we never fully get over. The one we build altars to in our silence. But if I learned anything, it's this. Being wanted isn't the same as being loved. And being remembered isn't the same as being respected. He may never think of me again. But I will always remember what it felt like to lose myself in someone who never asked me to stay. And that's the part I'm still learning how to forgive.